Hello, kindergarten. It is Mrs. Shervani again. I hope that you guys had a wonderful weekend. I know I did. It's so nice to relax with your families, huh? Okay, so today we are going to start our very last listening and learning unit of kindergarten. But don't worry, this one's going to take us a while to get through. And that's because starting today, we are going to be doing listening and learning 2 days a week instead of 5. So I will be with you guys reading a listening and learning story every Monday and then again on Friday. So Mondays and Fridays will be listening and learning. And I'm so excited for this unit because it's all about our country, the United States. So let's start chatting a little bit about what we're going to learn about, and then we'll get into the story. So, do you guys remember when we learned about kings and queens? Remember, a king is a male ruler of a kingdom, and a queen is a female ruler of a kingdom. And a kingdom is the place and people that is ruled by a king or queen. So, kingdoms do still exist today, but there were many more kingdoms a long time ago. Our country, the United States of America, where we all live right now, it's not a kingdom. The United States is not a kingdom. Do we have a king? No, we don't have a king. Do you know do you know what we call the leader of our country? The leader of our country is called the president, and our country's form of government is called a democracy. That means it's ruled by the people. So if our country is ruled by the people, what does the president do? So that's what we're going to find out today. In our story today, we're going to learn more about what the president does and where his home is and where he lives, what city he lives in. He has a special house and he lives in a special city. So we'll learn about that. And then over the next few weeks, when we're doing this whole unit, we're going to learn about several important United States presidents and how they all helped shape our country. And we'll also learn some symbols of the United States along the way too. So, do you guys know what this is right here? This is our flag, and our flag is a symbol of the United States. Absolutely. We have 50 stars on it and some red stripes and some white stripes. And don't worry, we will learn more about what these mean, what the stars mean and what the stripes mean. We'll learn more about it, but it's important to know right now that that's a symbol of our country. And let's see. Do you know who this guy is? This guy is George Washington, and he was the very first president of the United States. He is not alive anymore because he lived quite a long time ago, but he was our first president. Do you know what this is? We'll learn more about that today. This is the White House. And let's see. This is the Capitol building, I believe. Yes, this is the U.S. Capitol building. It is so big. It's really pretty. There's a lot of steps. There's some pretty trees. This is a real building. It's in Washington, D.C. And this is the Washington Monument, which is also in Washington, D.C. All three of these structures and big buildings are in Washington, D.C., which we're going to learn all about today. So let me tell you about our goal for the day. I wanted to show you guys this document. So this document is the journal that I post on Google Classroom. But if you don't have access to Google Classroom or you're having trouble logging in, I thought I would show you it here just in case you would like to write this on your own piece of paper. You don't have to do exactly this piece of paper. You could make your own. So by the end of today's lesson, you will be able to color in which symbol is on the flag. You'll also be able to answer what is the name of this building. You'll be able to write that here. And then you'll also be able to write who lives there. So those are 3 goals for the end of this story. Find out which symbol's on the flag, find out what that building's called, and find out who lives there. That's what we are going to try and answer by the end of this story. And you guys will be able to. You probably already can right now. Huh? Okay, so let me get out of that. All right, so we will learn all about the president today and the home of the president, which is Washington, D.C. So get cozied up, get ready to read and listen out for details all about Washington, D.C. Here we go. This is the American flag. The American flag is a symbol of our nation, the United States of America. You can see that the flag is red, white, and blue. You can also see that it has red and white stripes. It also has 50 stars, and each star is a symbol for one of the states in the United States of America. Very cool. Do you guys know what state we live in? New York. We all live in New York. Can you think of any states you have traveled to? I used to live in Pennsylvania. That's a state. I know that a lot of you talk about traveling to Florida a lot. That's another state. There are 50 states, so there's a lot of them. I'm sure you have been to more than one. Okay, let's look at the next picture. Ooh, this is one very important city in the United States that is not in any of the 50 states. In fact, it's the nation's capital. It's the city where most of the decisions that affect the country are made and where the government is located. Our nation's capital city is part of the United States where the President of the United States lives, Washington, D.C. The president is a very important leader in our government. And our current president's name is Donald Trump. That's who is our president right now in 2020. Okay, men from each of the original colonies helped write the Constitution, a plan for how the new country should be run. We call these men the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers decided they wanted the country to be run by a president instead of a king. Once a person is a king or a queen, they remain king or queen for the rest of their lives. He or she is not elected by the people and might not represent the interests of the people. The Founding Fathers didn't want one person to tell everyone what to do, like a king does. Instead, they wanted a leader who would listen to what the people wanted and work hard to get them what they needed. To make sure the president didn't become like a king, they decided to write the Constitution. And that's what you're seeing right here in this photo. The Constitution is a set of rules for the president to follow. They also decided that the president would have to be elected by the people. The president would not be born into a position like a king is, and he could only be a president for 4 years before the people would have to vote again. Yeah, that's true. So you can actually only be the president for a total of 8 years. 4 and 4 makes 8. But you have to get voted for again and elected again if you want to be president for another 4 years. Ooh. When the founding fathers started to think about where the president would live, they started to worry. If the president lived in the state he was from, it would make that state feel more important than all the other states. The founding fathers were afraid that one of the states would try to take over and be in charge of the others. They decided to write the Constitution that a special city should be built, no bigger than 10 miles wide, which would serve as the nation's capital. The capital city would not be in any state, so no one state could say that it was in charge of the country. The city was to be called Washington, in honor of our first president, George Washington. Eventually, Washington grew into the area we now call the District of Columbia, or Washington, D.C. So it looks like this photo is like a drawing of what they wanted the president's home to look like. If you visited Washington, D.C. today, you would be able to see the White House, the house where the president lives. So this is it. It is called the White House. It's not too hard to remember because it's a house and it's white. So it's easy peasy to remember, right? The White House. So that's where the president lives. The president moves into this house when he or she becomes president, and then moves out when the next president is elected. But not just presidents live there. Their families and even their pets come to live in the White House too. It's true. Have you ever seen a picture of this dog? His name is Bo, and he lives with President Barack Obama and his family. When President Barack Obama was first chosen to be the president in 2008, he promised his daughters that they could get a dog to live with them in the White House. Bo moved into the White House about 3 months after President Obama and his family moved there. And one of his favorite activities is playing outside with President Obama's daughters. That sounds wonderful. And there are actually a lot of photos of Bo in the White House and outside the White House. He's a very famous dog, I would say. And you'll hear more about President Obama in a later read aloud. In lesson 8, you'll hear more about him and all the good things that he did. The president doesn't just live in the White House. He or she works there too. Kind of like we're all living in our homes and working in our homes right now too, huh? The part of the White House where the president works is called the West Wing. The president's office has a special name too. The Oval Office. Sometimes the president signs laws or gives speeches from the Oval Office. Yeah, he does give speeches from there a lot. One of the president's most important jobs is to enforce the rules of the Constitution. The president doesn't run the government alone like a king would. The government is made up of a team of 3 groups: the president, Congress, and the Supreme Court. The founding fathers made sure that all 3 had equally important jobs so that the president didn't hold all of the power like a king, and so that people's freedom would be protected. So what the president says doesn't just go. He's not really the boss. He has to make sure that other people agree with him before he can make a new law. Because so many of our past presidents have lived in Washington, D.C., it is also a place where people often build statues and other buildings to honor them. If you visited Washington, D.C., you would find many monuments. Those are like statues and big buildings like the ones you're seeing right now. One famous monument is called the Lincoln Memorial. Another famous monument is called the Jefferson Memorial. These monuments are symbols to remind us how important these past presidents were in our nation's history. And we will learn about Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson in a later lesson because they were important to our country. This is the Washington Monument that we saw at the beginning of this lesson. It is one of many people's favorite monuments to visit in Washington, D.C. It's the world's tallest stone building. And when you go to the top of this tower, you can see all of Washington, D.C. That must be a pretty, pretty view, huh? But you don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to appreciate our country and its leaders. Every time you say the Pledge of Allegiance, which we say that every day in our classroom, or sing the national anthem, you can let everyone around you know that you are proud to be part of our country. So the next time you see the American flag, remember that our 50 states all share a belief in liberty and justice for everyone. And remember that these United States of America all share the same government, which is led by the President, the Congress, and the Supreme Court in Washington. Whew, we learned a lot of facts. I like seeing that picture of Barack Obama's dog the best. What did you like the best? I learned a lot of new facts. Okay, so let's go back to our goal. Remember, we wanted to know which symbol was on the flag, a heart or a star? A star. It's right there. Yes. And what is the name of that big building? This one. The White House. Yes. And who lives in the White House? The president does. You are so right. So there you go. We did it. We answered all 3 questions. You guys are already pros about the United States. I love it. Okay, so Friday, we will be back with a story about George Washington. And because he's such an important person to our country, we'll spend a couple of days learning about George Washington. So I can't wait to see your responses on Google Classroom, or you could just send a picture on Dojo or email me a picture. I would love to see that journal filled out, or just a picture drawn about Washington, D.C. and what we read today. Anything would be great. Or just a, hey, thumbs up, watched your video, loved it, Mrs. Shirvani, you're the best. All right, guys, have a wonderful Monday. I will be back on Friday with another listening and learning story. Adios.